All right, we're jumping back into Marvel. I'm sorry. Welcome to the HolmFront.
Exciting.
You get it?
Yeah.
Okay. Make sure you're not too high in the. Hello, welcome. The shenanigans that happened during the intro video.
What shenanigans?
I don't know. So we're here. We watched a movie.
Hey,
recently.
introduce me first.
We watched a movie that
You must
is
introduce.
going to melt all of our brains. I'm Tyler, your host. To my right, as always, is Mitch, my overly artistic friend.
Thank you.
I don't know why it was
here.
so important to you this time.
Well, because you always start with that.
Yeah, but I wanted to switch it up. Kind of like this movie did with Marvel. See how I
Okay.
did that? That was good, right?
Sure.
It was really good, I think.
It was as good as one of the jokes in this movie.
One of them. You'll have to explain which one that is, because, man, there was only one scene I laughed at, and we'll go over that later. Okay, so to get out any announcements, do you have anything?
No,
pending?
let's just jump into it.
Okay. By the way, I'll go over this later. Go ahead.
I was just gonna jump us into the premise, the summary.
Jump us in.
All right, so we saw the new Falcon movie. I mean, Captain America movie.
Captain Falcon.
Captain Falcon. Oh, didn't we talk about how he should be Captain Falcon
Captain
and he
Falcon,
should Falcon punch
Yeah.
someone? He didn't really Falcon
He
punch in
didn't.
this movie. So
Biggest
this is a
disappointment ever.
Okay, so we saw the Captain America Brave New World. It's the new Captain America Marvel movie. I don't really know even what to say for like the breakdown of the story or the premise. It follows the Falcon character. He's now donned the mantle of being Captain America, so he has the shield and he has like these mechanical wings, which seem upgraded from last time.
Well, yeah, they explained that. He got him upgraded in Wakanda. That's why he has the absorbing
Wakanda.
technology now.
Absorbing technology.
Yeah.
So he had that. And then they do it's kind of like an espionage plot because Harrison Ford character, he's playing General Ross back from 2008's The Incredible Hulk. I'm sure we all remember this.
Yeah, if none of you remember, 2 films came out in 2008. One was Iron Man, which officially launched the MCU, and The Incredible Hulk with Ed Norton and William Hurt and Liv Tyler that no one seems to remember or really include in the MCU, even though technically it is.
Mhm.
It is a part of it, even though they recast almost everybody, except for William Hurt, which is the only part of that wasn't in this movie.
Yeah, because I didn't know, but I guess he had passed away, so
He died in
did need to be
2018.
recast.
Yep.
Yeah, which is a shame because I thought he was a good Ross, but Harrison Ford makes up for it. But I mean, he's Harrison Ford, so he was awesome.
Probably the best part of the movie, honestly.
Okay, yeah, and I got sidetracked. Sorry. So Harrison Ford is the president of the United States.
Naturally.
So he goes from being a general to being president, and he wants to turn over a new leaf. And he's like, you know what? I was kind of a jerk in the old days, but now I'm gonna be different.
Thunderbolt Ross.
President Thunderbolt Ross. That actually seems somewhat believable. Okay. So he's president, and he's wanting to. There was something from the movie Eternals, I guess, with like this big, like statue in the sky that exists, but there's like this special material in it that they have to. All the world leaders have to figure out how they're gonna share this special material, and then along the way, a bunch of espionage hijinks happen. And so there's an assassination attempt on him. He survives, but then that casts suspicion everywhere. And Captain America has to like solve the case, find out what's happened, and then make sure there's world peace. I feel like I'm doing a terrible job, but it's like I don't remember this movie very well. I saw it like a week ago. I also don't. I don't. Does any of this make sense? I feel like every word out of my mouth in the last 2 minutes has just been like total nonsense.
Yeah, you okay?
Well, it sounds weird. It
sounds weird because it is weird. So 2 things that you should keep in mind with this review and if you see the movie is this is much more a sequel to The Incredible Hulk from 2008. So if you look at it that way, it makes a little bit more sense.
That does make more sense, yeah, because it's not really a sequel to Winter Soldier.
Well, the last Captain America movie was Civil War.
Or that.
But yes, no, it does.
Okay.
So mainly what it's trying to do, what I assume it's trying to do, I'm trying to collect my thoughts because this thing is all over the place. There was a show, Captain America and Winter Soldier, which was supposed to be, I think, like the Anthony Mackie melding into the role of Captain America. But they have this other character in there who they hand the shield to instead, and he's just another soldier, like a decorated soldier. And then he ends up taking the serum and kind of going crazy. And so Anthony Mackie at the end finally takes it back. And that's when you get the whole...
Yes,
you need to do better, Senator. Best line ever.
The best line ever written
in his stupid little outfit.
In film history. You need to do better.
You need to do better. So that's where that came from. So this movie, I think, was trying to establish him again as Captain America. But
it failed at that, I think.
It did a terrible job because it was much more like, and this is a line you gave me actually that helped me kind of contextualize this film more properly. This is a movie about Thunderbolt Ross.
Yeah.
And Captain America is just part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is weird to think about because it has so many elements from the 2008 Hulk movie, the No Hulk. And then it's Captain America, where Captain America is just kind of sidelined in his own movie.
Mm.
And outside of all that, it feels like a movie that's just been pulled apart and stitched back together so many times. Like, as you're going through it, you're like, man, it just feels kind of like it's zigzagging in direction. And so it's hard to maintain a hold on a single plot line.
Okay, yeah. So this is actually relevant because I came out of the movie and I texted you. I was like, that wasn't that bad. And you were like, really? That was horrible. And we had this kind of back and forth. And I was like, well, I was just invested in the Harrison Ford character, the Ross.
Which is, it is good.
If you put your investment in there, then I think you'll actually come out reasonably satisfied. I mean, it's like it's Marvel movie stuff. You got action, you got jokes, you got a good pace. You know, it doesn't or a good pace isn't a fast pace. Like, it doesn't waste time with a nuance, that frustrating nuance.
Don't need that.
Get rid of that. It's got a plot that more or less makes sense. I mean, the plot made sense, right?
For the most part, I guess.
For the most part, yeah. It wasn't like riddled with holes or anything. I feel like there was one or two that I can't remember now, and I was like, wait, how did that happen? But I didn't think it was that bad. So yeah, and I mean, I was invested in the Ross character, so I actually kind of liked the movie. And then as we were prepping for it, and the week been, it's kind of like I've been in this weird place in my life where I had to spend a week trying to defend a movie I didn't really care about just because I mildly enjoyed it. And then it was like, at some point, I just thought, why am I defending this? I don't actually care about it that much. So we'll probably rip it a new one in this episode, I guess.
Maybe.
Because that's what you're going to want to do. And I don't... It's like I have no loyalty to the film. It didn't win me over. But I did like the Ross character because, I mean, he's trying to reconnect with his daughter. They made it personal. And I thought that was like a nice touch. Like, he's older. He's president now. He wants to kind of do some good in the world. I was like, that's kind of cool.
They kept that through the whole movie too, which is why it came out so strong, because he wasn't just kind of one note. We'll get into it a little bit more, I guess, but he takes responsibility for things. Two things significantly that bled through and really kind of solidified his character arc pretty well. So again, if you're watching this movie and you kind of pay attention to his arc as like the main theme of the film, you'll probably like it.
Yeah.
I didn't. I didn't pay attention to that as the arc because the movie title is Captain America. So I'm here like an idiot thinking that Captain America is going to be a good part of the movie.
That was very foolish of you.
Yeah, dummy. So yeah, Harrison Ford is a recast for William Hurt's character. Good, because it's Harrison Ford.
So actually, quick question then: do you recommend this film? Obviously, I don't think this film is recommended to non-Marvel fans. If you don't like Marvel, you will hate this.
Yeah,
I don't think you'll have any interest at all because it's so typical Marvel all throughout. But if you are a Marvel fan, do you think Marvel fans would like it. It seems like they do. We should look at it because this is a Rotten Disparity, actually.
Yeah.
Like, because the audiences are actually decently positive, even though if you look online, people seem to just be like, oh, it's awful. But the audiences like it.
Yeah, I mean, scores are there.
Critics hate it.
I'm not defending this. I agree with the critics on this one.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll give you a review from my favorite reviewer. I saw this like right after I watched the movie, and I thought this was so apropos. So this is from an audience member, Jesse, and they write, and this is direct quote, "Everyone saying bad reviews about this movie are simply non-Marvel fan and people who doesn't want to see this movie succeed. My final point is that this is a must-watch movie. Amazing scripts, awesome CGI, and so good acting. 3 exclamation points. Now, doesn't that make you want to just see the movie? I think Jesse was onto something.
Thanks, Jesse, for your contribution to the show. Good night.
It's like a kid wrote it or something.
It's got to be that, right? It's got to be.
Audience reviewers must just like type it in real quick.
They just
looking.
don't proofread.
They don't proofread. They don't review it whatsoever. It's hilarious.
That's a good point. Yeah, my final point. I was like, you only made one other point. You're just upset at people that don't like this movie. That's all you just don't like those. Yeah. So this is such a milquetoast, inoffensive film.
Milquetoast is a great word for this movie.
Yeah, it's like it's trying so hard not to make any statements that it's almost like, I'm okay if you make a statement. At least I'd get some tension here at some point.
Well, the title of the movie is Brave New World, which is, of course, a reference to the
dystopian novel.
The British dystopian novel. I didn't think anything about it was remotely like Brave New World, though.
No.
I didn't think anything.
I think the only thing they were trying to say with that was that Ross was now the president.
And he's ushering in a Brave New World?
Yeah. Or that it's a Brave New World that would elect him as president. That's what I was gathering, because the rest of it, I was like, I don't know what else to do with this title.
Brave New World isn't really about elected leaders, though. So that
arguably
that doesn't make sense.
It would be that the fact that they don't elect leaders that's the problem.
Well, yeah, it's because it's like cultural degradation kills society in that movie. Everyone becomes like there's no virtue or value to anything in life.
But they're so far into that already,
right?
That anyway,
it's hard to find out how that actually happened. Yeah, so I don't know what the naming convention was. It was again playing into that like Civil War movie where they're just like, ooh, it's like topical. Everybody's talking about Civil War in the United States, so let's like get in on that piece of the pie. It's like it's not a pie. It's like a trend thing that's going to go out of style in like 2 minutes.
Brave New World's not currently relevant, though. I mean,
not really.
So here's my theory: is that it's a different film. Probably went through multiple title changes. But it seems like
I think it did actually.
It probably went through multiple reshoots also, which means
I think it did because I heard audiences didn't like it. So the
original screenings.
Yeah, the test screenings I think were bad.
So that's got to be it. Probably somewhere in there, whether it be the first one or somewhere along the line, it resembled something that could be equated to Brave New World. No longer did by the end, but they're like, let's just keep the title because it's a good title.
In this other version that no longer exists.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I mean, we're kind of getting out of this a little bit. This is all speculative territory, but
okay.
Anyway, Ross's character was good.
Okay, so I'm not like crazy for liking that part of the movie. You think?
No, that was good. That was the most compelling part of the movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
but it was a snag for you because you're like, I want to invest in Anthony Mackie's character, the Falcon, who's now Captain America, and it wasn't letting you do that. I could see that. That is frustrating.
Well, there's also the fact that Anthony Mackie, the show specifically showed how he didn't want to step into those shoes. And I was like, good point. Mainly because you weren't the one set up to take the mantle, to take the shield. Like, that was supposed to be Bucky. And then they switched it up on everybody, handed it to Mackie. Mackie doesn't seem to fit him. He's a side character. He's like a sidekick, essentially, to Cap. And so when he got handed the shield, I was like, okay, I guess I'll deal. I don't know what you're going to do with that. I thought the show would handle that. It didn't. So then he gets his own movie, and I was like, okay, so is this where you're finally gonna like settle him in and commit to this?
Yeah.
And then again, it didn't. I was like,
Okay.
it just kind of shoved him aside. I was like, look, you guys are so mean to this Anthony Mackie. Poor guys just want to settle into this role.
He's like, what do you guys want?
Exactly.
Okay, I see why that's like extra frustrating then, because it's sort of like we want to see the vision going forward. I think maybe it sounds like a lot of people had that hope. Because I think you were even reading some critic reviews, and that seemed to be a prevailing theme, was they felt like this is supposed to be Anthony Mackie's movie, and it just doesn't feel like it really establishes him in an MCU.
He gets overshadowed.
He's overshadowed by the story with this other character, the Thunderbolt Ross man.
Who is arguably more interesting. I mean, that's the thing we've been going on for, 15 minutes here. So, yeah, I mean, and take that as you will. I mean, this doesn't seem to further anything in the Marvel universe.
No.
Except one thing, which we'll get into at the end, which...
Was there anything else good about this movie do you want to cover before we get into the bad stuff?
So they had 2 actors come in that, again, were underutilized major. The first one, which I think I had mentioned to you before you saw it, was this character named Isaiah, and he also shows up in Captain America Winter Soldier. He's an old super soldier that America kind of cast aside, and they added some racial aspects into the show and stuff at that time. But
he's a really good actor, though.
Yeah,
he brought his A. He was like emotional and just intense. I was like, whoa. He had the best joke in the movie too.
Which joke?
Well, it was when they get into the limo, and then the Falcon Jr. character tries to make a quip, and the stare he gives him, it was this like death stare, like, you did not just say that. And then he like plays up, he's like, I'm just messing with you. And I was like, don't do that. It's like, that freaked me out. I was like, gee.
Everyone's uncomfortable. Yeah, so I'm meaning, but those kind of moments, like he was so underused in the movie. I was like...
Yeah, he elevates all the scenes he's in. Yeah. So I don't know why they didn't do more with him. Oh, yeah, because he gets accused of assassinating the president at the beginning. This is just like the opening, like 20 minutes.
So he doesn't like Thunderbolt Ross. He doesn't like the government. He doesn't like...
Because they pushed him aside.
Okay. They imprisoned him. And they were the ones that made him a super soldier. So Anthony Mackie's relationship with him was developed in the show, and then here he goes back to like go for training or something. That scene is real convoluted too. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You're just like, what are we doing here? But he invites him to go to the White House. He gets a phone call from the president. And he's like, I only said I'd go if you came with me. So he brings Isaiah with him. So it's kind of contrived how they set this thing up in the first place. But I was like, I kind of like where this is going, because it's another arc for redemption for potentially for Thunderbolt Ross, but also for Isaiah. And then this event happens. Something goes on that it triggers Isaiah, where he shoots at the president. And I was like, I've seen this before.
Well, him and like 6 other people.
Right.
Wait. You saw this before? In what other movie?
Winter Soldier.
I haven't seen that in a really long time. There's an assassination attempt on the president.
No, it's Civil War. Not for the president. No, it's when what's his name goes and activates Bucky, and Bucky goes on that rampage.
Yeah, that's the whole point of that
like,
movie. Wait a minute, it is in Winter Soldier. Yeah, because they're activating Bucky. Bucky can't control. He's mind controlled or whatever, right?
So that I was like, this has all been done before. What are we doing? No, it is Civil War, because it's the one with Black Panther. Anyway, we'll get into that later. We'll go over Marvel films later. But it's again, this is the same plot line. So I was like, so is he like a foreign agent, and someone activated him? Find out later that it's not. So I was like, so you just imprisoned this really good actor, this great character that had a lot of potential in this film, and just basically sat him in jail for the whole movie. When I was like, you could have kept him in and made some much more compelling plot lines. So I didn't like that. I thought that was kind of he just got shafted. And then the other one,
I love how I asked you for other good things. Then it somehow became a bad thing as you were describing.
He was a good thing, and they just underused him. So
okay, well, the same could be said for the sub-villain, Sidewinder, who's this. He's like an arms dealer or something like that, or like a mercenary. But I
think mercenary is probably a better word. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's a mercenary or something like that. And then he's in the beginning of the movie starts with an action scene. We're 20 minutes in, and we're starting the beginning.
I know.
Sorry.
There's a lot of unpacking this thing.
Yeah, but like the start of the movie, Captain America like comes down and he's like, whoosh, and it's like this, this fort of bad guys, and he's like beating up bad guys and cracking jokes, and he's doing like the whole like, I'm kind of busy right now, doing like that stuff, like literally the whole time. And then there's like, he catches up with him and he's like, all right, I got you. And then he's like, well, you're not gonna get me because I have like a henchman who can take you down. You don't know what's at stake. And then he walks off, and then this big guy comes up and is like, I've always wanted to take out Captain America. And so then they fight for a little while, and then they crack some more jokes, and then Captain America wins. And then after that, it's like Sidewinder escapes. But then he like, and he left behind like this thing that they were trying to get, the MacGuffin. So the good guys got the MacGuffin, and they're like, that was too easy. So this is like the start. Do you like my rendition?
Absolutely. Keep going. Dramatized version of this.
I mean, that's like literally how it was.
It is.
I was like, this is pretty. All right.
It's super generic. Like I could vaguely remember all those scenes because there's not really a whole lot of compelling stuff going on. Like it feels like.
Well, yeah, because they don't establish. There's no motivations for any of the characters yet. It's just to like get the story going, but it's done in like an action scene way. Which
it feels like a lesser version of Age of Ultron, where they have that whole beginning fight scene.
Something less than Age of Ultron. Wow.
well, Age of Ultron, it has that, like, they're in the snow and they're attacking the fortress, and it's all the Avengers going in, and they're able to like use all their different abilities and such. And this one, it's just Captain Falcon, and he's just the one beating everybody up with like a SEAL team behind him or whatever.
Yeah.
So he's the only like interesting one there. And he doesn't have, unfortunately, sorry, Anthony, he doesn't have enough to like hold the whole thing himself. And so he's not like bringing a whole lot of charisma, and the jokes don't land. That's another thing about this film is like, man, is
okay. Yeah, I want to ask you about this because the jokes, it was like surreal. It was genuinely surreal. The movie starts, he's cracking jokes, and I had a pretty decent sized fill of a theater. Like I saw opening weekend. And I mean, it wasn't packed, but there were a lot of people in there. And every time a joke came out, no one laughed. And it was weird. Did that happen to you? Nobody laughed?
Same. It was pretty quiet.
Okay. I remember going to see...
Even for me, which I don't appreciate those jokes, there was one scene that actually got me to audibly laugh. We'll go over that later, but...
Yeah, but for the wrong reasons.
It was no one else laughed because it was something different, but...
I don't know why nobody else laughed. I thought it was absurd, but... But yeah, like because I remember being in the theater and seeing Avengers, and I'm not a big Marvel fan, I'm not a big Avengers fan, but the energy in that theater was great.
Oh yeah,
and there's no denying that it was a cultural moment. Like everyone was having so much fun. It was infectious. It was like, man, everybody's having a blast.
Yep.
You got cool characters doing action movie stuff. Like, what more do you want? Like, it's as simple as that. It's like a cheeseburger. And then this movie. It was like they're playing the jokes and they're doing the Marvel stuff, and it's like this should be working, but it's like
not.
Everything is different now, and it was just kind of like whoa. And
They
I had to
weren't
take a
earning
moment.
them.
I was like, everything is like I was like, you guys were writing this specific like motion and time, like you created it, but now it's like this is not working to recapture. It's so
they did enough to try and butcher their audience. So I mean.
Yeah, I think all these shows that
yeah.
did a ton of damage, and I think they stayed out of the spotlight for too long. I think they got rid of the original cast. It's kind of rough. I'm like, you guys really did a number on this universe, and I get that. I imagine a lot of the cast probably was done and tired of it. I would assume they've been doing it for 8 years. It's a long time.
8?
Well, yeah.
It was more like 10 or 12 because they started in 2008 and then went all the way to...
Yeah, but 2008 was just Robert Downey Jr. Arguably.
Sure.
Because everyone else got replaced or cast later. But you get the 8 to 10 years, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to comment on like how it's weird to experience something. It was almost like if they had put on a silent film, it would have felt like that. Like where you're like, ooh, this is weird because it's such a different, it's like a relic from the past.
Different era. Yeah, it was interesting because it was trying to recapture this essence, essentially. That didn't exist anymore. And then you could feel it just kind of bleeding through the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Sidewinder underused also, who's played by it's like Gilbert something. It's the same guy. He does the same role in every, Breaking Bad and Mandalorian. He's just kind of the same character. This one, he was pretty much the same character.
Yeah, but he was still like
he was interesting.
He brought a level of class to the picture.
He did,
and it's like, but then it's like that opening scene. Then he has a fight with Captain America, which was a bit goofy. And then he shows up again one more time, and he does like an interrogation. He's like, I need to get some intel, so he goes and talks to him.
Right, he offers him like a deal for something.
Yeah, this movie was like a point and click adventure game where it's like maybe I could talk to this person, and then you get like this short scene. It's like get some intel. All right, moving on.
Go
and
see the guy about the thing about the other guy, and then you'll find the thing you need.
That happened like 5 or 6 times in this movie. I'm not even kidding. It was just like
a set of side quests.
Like there's this one part where they gotta investigate this base, and they're looking in, and he has these little drones that go around and like scan, and like they could see where the guards are moving. They're like, okay, we're gonna have to get in there. And I had this moment of going, in a different movie, this would be like a 2-month-long process to figure out like what the times are for the guard schedules and how we can infiltrate and like all the steps in the process. And I was like, I feel like they're just gonna cut through the fence and run, and that's
exactly what they
did. Just like, I don't have time.
We're in.
All right, now we're in. It's like 20 seconds. But which again, one of those things that worked in like old Marvel movies, and now is just like, feels like filmmaking has changed.
But it sets itself up as this kind of espionage type film. So then it does stuff like that where it just kind of takes a shortcut, and you're like, oh, okay, so you're not an espionage film, or you just kind of want both?
I think it wanted both. I think that was probably a problem too.
Probably. Well, okay, so let's just jump into the things we don't like. I mean, we've already covered half of them.
They just bled through.
They do. And for
I'm sorry. I was trying to defend you, movie.
It was a rough one, and it's just so long. Okay, so let's jump into the 2 characters that they try and introduce in this film.
Okay.
For the first one, for the sake of our show, we're gonna call him Falcon Jr. I don't know what he's actually called. I totally forgot because I just hated his scenes.
He was very annoying.
He was so irritating.
He was supposed to be like the young, hip newcomer who's just like, yeah, I'm just like all about this, man. And it was like, dude.
It was a weird setup, the way that they introduced him. Because he's like sitting in this plane, and it looks like he's just another Air Force guy. And he's like tracking the movement of Anthony Mackie and stuff. And then all of a sudden he's like, can I get out there too? And then you see him, he's in this stupid green outfit with his wings and stuff, and he's like another Falcon. I was like, who is this? Wasn't he just on the plane in his uniform, and now he's a Falcon? So is he not part of the Air Force, or is this now like
are they making Falcon soldiers? Is that the
right? It was weird. I was like, so is he like side recruited by Anthony Mackie? They didn't explain him at all. He just kind of was like, I'm Falcon now. He just jumped out.
I have to say, this is weird that they just called him Falcon throughout the whole movie, and I was like, wait a minute, but Anthony Mackie plays Falcon. And they're like, well, he's Captain America now. And I was like, look, I don't care, but it's just odd that like this character replacement thing is like. It was, I don't know, it just did not.
I think they're trying to fill the void. They're trying to push him in so that it helped the audience accept Anthony Mackie's new role.
Yeah.
But it didn't work that well because it was like he didn't have any kind of, like, no one has ever seen him before. He just appears in this movie, and then he just kind of like dons this suit that no one knew even existed. And he's like, I'm Falcon Jr. now. It's like, oh, okay. All right, sure. All right. But then, even through all that, they still sideline Anthony Mackie. So it's like, still didn't do the rest of the work.
Yeah, Falcon Jr. gets a character arc moment.
Yes, he does.
Well, Mackie does too.
Well, okay, so what I think was happening there, because at a certain point, he gets a little too over his skis. It's basically Top Gun without him dying. So he goes out and he gets a little too ambitious and gets himself shot out of the sky. Which is a callback to the fact that Anthony Mackie used to be, he used to have a wingman, and he had the Falcon wings. And his or whatever he is, why am I blanking? Wingman. His wingman got shot out, and he died. So that was like his original arc when he first meets Captain America. So I think they were doing that.
Okay.
But everyone forgot about that because it's just a story that he throws out when he first meets Captain America, which was...
Wait, so we never saw that? He just described it?
He just describes it.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's like, yeah, I was in the Air Force, and Captain America thinks he was a pilot. And then they go save his wings. He's like, I thought you were a pilot. He's like, I never said I was a pilot. But he told the story of the fact that his wingman got shot out of the sky and died, and that's why he was no longer in the service. But he was like this PTSD coach. He would sit down with a bunch of people that had, shell shock, essentially.
Gotcha.
Anyway, so I think that was a callback there to be, like, this is serious, and your wingman is in danger, and, and it's supposed to be an arc for him, too. He's like, the wingman got shot out of the sky, and he's like, does that ever happen to you? He's like, no, not anymore, or whatever. He's like, I gotta put on a brave face for everybody that's following me.
Yeah, he was talking like, he's like, you gotta level up more. That was like the summary of what he was saying. He was like,
pretty much,
look, Falcon Jr.,
you gotta do better.
You gotta
do better. Falcon Jr., Senator. Just every movie with Anthony Mackie, he's just gonna tell people they gotta do better. That's just his shtick now.
That's what I want to see.
I know. You
need more experience points.
More time in the sky, Falcon. Fly better. So yeah, okay. So there's Falcon Jr. Didn't add.
Is there anything else to say about that character? I just found him to be incredibly annoying. I was like, I feel like we could just cut this character and it would be a better movie.
It wouldn't change.
That's how
much.
I felt. He was just like
he was trying to bring too much energy to all of his scenes.
Yeah,
where no one else was matching him.
The
only thing that worked was when Isaiah just fixed him with that stare.
Yeah,
just because of the contrast.
And that really shut him down.
It should have shut him up the rest of the movie, but it kept going. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So and then the other character, which
for this one, we need to establish it as the initial reaction because I think it's the same part because you see her like briefly, but you don't really register everything about this character or her role in the movie.
Yeah.
And then there's a fight scene. It's when the assassination starts to happen.
Yeah, so music starts playing in this room while Ross is making a speech to everybody.
Yeah.
And then Isaiah and 2 or 3 other guys start shooting at him.
Right.
And then there's a fight scene that ensues.
Yeah, and she's part of the Secret Service. Right. So she like grabs one of the shooters and like throws him down and like punches him and then stands up. And when she stands up, that's when you know. And it's the most pivotal moment of the whole movie. It genuinely is because everyone's believability was just shattered. Your suspension of disbelief is gone after this moment. When she stood up, I went, whoa, she's short. She is so small. Okay,
tiny.
Interesting. Who is this person? What was your reaction?
I laughed out loud. And it's not a comical scene. So,
no, it's played off super straight, but she stands up, and I was just like, "Whoa!"
So it pulls.
Are you 12 or 13, somewhere in there?
It pulls a Scarlett Johansson thing. It's like this is like the new Black Widow or whatever, because she comes in and it's all a blur. She jumps on this guy and like legitimately throws this man across the room.
Yeah, this like 350-pound man.
I was like, who's this? And she stands up. And I couldn't hold it. I was like, what the heck is that? Because it comes in. It comes in on her face. And, like, I'm sorry to the actress, but you look like a 12-year-old boy.
She does.
She legitimately looks like a child. And so I looked it up later. She's 5'2", which isn't all that short, but she's really small framed.
Very petite.
Yeah, and then she goes around and she wants to be taken seriously, clearly.
And
but
throughout the whole movie,
I couldn't do it.
The whole movie, she's like taking these grown men and like throwing them and like curling them up against the wall, and they're like, "Ugh, I'm getting beat up." I was
by
like,
a child.
What?
So here's the thing: they do put a throwaway line in there that she's ex-widow. From what I understand, the widows, they have part of the serum or something to like make them more than human. They're not quite superhuman, I guess, but they're like strong.
They really should
size.
have talked that up more if that's the case.
They have a movie now, which I've not seen. I haven't seen the Black Widow film, but anyway,
is she in that?
I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't think she is, but they say she's ex-widow, so you're supposed to like infer from all this. Anyway, the thing about it is like it's not only that she's this small and she looks like a child. It's just like they also ask you to believe that this person could be throwing around these people without enough, because like you see everything with Captain America. You see how weak and scrawny he is, and then they put him in the chamber, and he comes out this massive, ridiculous thing of a man.
Like, greasy.
Also a ridiculous scene, but like at least you get it. Like you get it. Right?
He's
it's
ripped now.
It's like when the Hulk changes. It's like, okay, now I understand. With these ones, it just expects you to believe that these tiny little people can do this. And it's like, I was having a hard enough time with Scarlett Johansson, you guys. Now you're putting this on the screen, this 5'2", probably not even 100 pounds soaking wet. Like this chick is so small. And I was like, your believability just jumped out of the window just now.
Yeah, it just lost everyone in the theater.
Head first, just whoosh.
He's like, what?
Yeah. So
and
it was the only part I laughed out loud.
It
cracked me up.
So apparently I looked up the character too, and she's supposed to be an Israeli superhero. Like a straight up superhero with a costume and everything. And her superhero costume is supposed to have, it's like inspired by the Israeli flag. So what I'm guessing happened is they were worried about
Israeli.
Yeah, they do mention that, but they don't really lean into this. Because think of it this way, if she had her superhero costume and they had her just as a superhero, it would be easier to believe just because you would like, okay, nobody wears a super
associated.
Yeah, as long as you have a superhero costume, I can make the jump that you probably have some powers which grants you the ability to fight in this capacity. But they portrayed her as the Secret Service agent. And it's like, no, under no circumstances would someone of that stature ever be in that position in the United States of America. It just wouldn't happen because it's unbelievable. It's like that's what it means. Unbelievable, the word. You cannot believe.
Well, yeah.
I think they were worried about like being politically entangled though by talking about Israel.
Well, then they should have just taken her out. I mean,
agreed.
Whatever.
But a failure. It's a failure to like how did no one look at? Because here's the thing: if it was me, if I was the director, and the casting director says like, "Oh, I think she'd be great," I first would have said no. But let's say I take a step back. I'm the producer, so I don't really have final say. And it's like, well, the casting director and the director like her. She wants to do it. I'd be like, all right, you guys need to change her fighting style. She needs to be like a ninja. So she needs to be like, spinning around, like grab their leg and then like go underneath and then like, pop up on their back and then like stab them with a knife or like slit their throat or something like that. She needs to do like, she needs to be like that. Because that's like, if she's like slippery and hard to catch because she's so small, that would be playing to her strengths. So I was waiting for that to happen. I thought, okay, well, she has to fight like a ninja. Nope. They want her to just like throw down. I'm like, look, I could take you on. My nephew could take you on, and he's 8.
Yeah, total unbelievability.
It hurt the movie so much, though.
Yeah.
I took my mother to see it, and she said she liked the movie but could not stand that character and that it ruined the whole movie for her. Those were her exact words. She was like, she's so small, she can't do that. I was like, she's not going to catch a throwaway line. Oh, she's a widow.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
You have to be a Marvel fan or someone that pays attention to this type of stuff to like, insert that in the movie.
Everyone else is just like, what is this?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, do we have any more to say?
They didn't even put her in high heels.
Right. They didn't help her at all.
I would have given her like
something.
9-inch heels.
At least would have given her something.
Give her like a foot.
For the rest of the movie, or for the show, by the way, we're just going to call her Shorty McShort I don't remember her name.
I don't remember either. So Shorty McShort works for me.
Yeah, you're welcome, Shorty. Okay. The other thing, before we started this, you're like, what'd you think of the villain? And I was like,
yeah.
Who was the villain?
It took forever. I was like the guy with the brain. His head is a brain. Remember? It's like a brain coming out of his skull.
I did not remember. He shows up like twice in the movie. No, 3 times. He shows up like 3 times.
Yeah, 3 times, I think.
Keep in mind, remember, this is a direct sequel to The Incredible Hulk from 2008. If I think about it that way, I can remember all this stuff. There's a character in there, barely shows up, But he's a character that goes and he opens up a soda can, a soda bottle, that has been infected with the Hulk's blood. So Edward Norton, while he's running through a factory, gets cut, drips it into a bottle with soda. He takes a sip, falls on the ground, his head starts going all weird, and he smiles. It's a weird scene.
That's right.
They never followed through on it. And I was like, that was a weird scene to throw into the movie without doing anything. They finally,
this is him.
20 years later, finally came through. Yeah, so if you didn't remember, there you go.
Okay, I remember that now. Now he has an origin point. Okay.
So, again,
sorry
is the direct
for forgetting
sequel.
a movie from 20 years ago. Good grief. Okay, so, like, he needed... Oh, man, that really hurts his movie even more. Because he... Like, that seems like a... 20 years or, like, so much time. And then the character makes their debut. You would think there would be more, like... like, you would have more...
Something. Anything.
Grandiose.
Sure.
Yeah, because it just falls on his brain. It just drinks, so it goes to his brain, and it doesn't affect any other part of his body.
Yeah, it just he like it's such a brief scene in The Incredible Hulk. It's like maybe 10 seconds long. Like it's I only remember it because it was so bizarre that they put. I was like, this seems like it's setting something up, and it never paid it off till now.
Huh.
So his name is Samuel Stearns. And we had to look this up because we couldn't remember from the movie. But apparently he has an actual like villain name from the comics, and it's Leader.
Leader what?
It's just Leader. Leader. Not like Liter, because he took a drink from the soda, but Leader. That was a really bad. I'm ashamed of that joke.
I didn't know you were going to do that one.
I didn't either. I should have not. I should have dropped that. That was terrible. Yes, Leader. Like, he's a brain character, like a brainiac. I mean, you can't take that because it's DC,
boy.
but why would you call him Leader? So he's apparently been, like, feeding Ross. Because Ross has some health conditions. He's been, like, trying to help him figure it out, but has been poisoning Ross all this time. Who'd have thunk? And that's all done in this film. Like, it's not set up in any other films at all. I don't mention him, reference him. William Hurt just kind of like shows up every once in a while for like the accords and stuff. But now you have to make all these leaps and kind of figure out, okay, so this has been going on for this amount of time. Which falls in line with him trying to change. So he has a conversation early on with Anthony Mackie and is like, Anthony brings up these points because of what Isaiah has told him. He's like, hey, we have some concerns about you being president. You have this bad reputation. How are we going to work through this? Like, if you tell me something I don't want to do, or if we have a disagreement, what are we going to do with that?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, recognize that I'm still the president, but I'm willing to hear what you have to say. Like, I'd like to meet you halfway if we ever come to that. And it's like, okay, this is good. And then you find out that he's also having these health issues. So all this is kind of culminating into him and his personal arc where he's like, I don't have a relationship with my daughter anymore, Liv Tyler's character. And I have this really bad reputation where a lot of people see me in a really negative light. I'd like to change that. And it comes to a head where he's taking these medications that Leader has been giving him that essentially change him into the Red Hulk, which is what everybody has seen from this movie. The only thing that made people want to see this movie in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this movie, if you look at it from Ross's arc, is much more compelling than from Captain America.
Yeah, because Ross, so he wins, he gets to be president, he wins the election, and then he makes this gesture to Anthony Mackie, Captain America. He's like, you guys got to rebuild the Avengers. And they're like, oh, that's interesting. He's like, I thought you were against it. And he's like, well, yeah, but it's like I represent the whole country now. So it's like I don't get to have like my own personal opinion about this. It's more important that I actually represent what the American people voted for, which is interesting. So it seems like he's trying to do a good job. And then after the assassination attempt, they just throw Isaiah in jail, and they're like, that's the end of that. And I didn't like that conversation because he backpedals too hard, too much. And I was like, he's trying to turn over no leaf. I'd like to see him try to feel like he can walk a middle ground. And instead, they were like, well, now he's changed his mind. He's back to being evil Thunderbolt Ross. So they very much wanted to play up like there's a good version of Ross and a bad version. And you're going to get, who knows which one you're going to open on Christmas morning.
Which then coalesces into the on-the-nose version at the very end. Like, you got Ross and you got Red Hulk. Like,
yeah.
all right, like they got the duality that was going through the whole movie, but okay.
Yeah. So it was a very it was like, I don't know, it wasn't like perfect, but it still had like some interesting bits. There's a line where he's like trying to reunite like the world leaders to solve this discussion. It felt like a very like Jimmy Carter thing, like we can't not do this because otherwise it just becomes our future generation's problem to deal with. And so it's like we have to sit down and solve this now, if you know your American history. The other thing about this is it was actually very, very political. I don't think it had a particular stance, but
It probably did in some of the iterations, which is probably what was bleeding through, and probably why test screeners didn't like some of the messaging in it.
Yeah, because I mean, Disney has been like super like left leaning in recent memory, but with this movie, I think it's like they had to pivot because Trump won the election and got the popular vote. So they're like, oh man, what do we do about that? Because there's all this stuff in the movie that references him, not necessarily in a bad light, but like Thunderbolt Ross is Donald Trump in this movie, like all the way.
Pretty overt.
I mean, the opening scene is like he's running for the election and, he wins and there's like a part of his campaign, a clip, and he literally has like a Hitler mustache. And then he says like, well, they said lose the stash or lose the election. And I was like, is that just because people want to like say Trump is Hitler or whatever? They make that comparison all the time, whether it applies or not.
I forgot about that.
So there's that. And then there's the scene where he goes to pick up Isaiah, Anthony Mackie does, and in his room is a picture of Jack Johnson.
In Thunderbolt's room?
Not in Thunderbolt's room, but in Isaiah's. Oh. But I was like, why is there a picture of Jack Johnson? I'm like, yeah, I get it. He was like a boxer or a wrestler. But I'm like, that's an odd choice because Donald Trump pardoned Jack Johnson posthumously.
Oh.
Well, Jack Johnson.
Deep takes that I'm not familiar with.
So Jack Johnson was like, he's African American, and he was like, as I understand it, he was kind of unfairly punished for. I think he was with a prostitute and she was white, but like as far as I understand, it wasn't really illegal. It didn't sound like it was. So, but like at the time, this was like 1910. So,
I see.
He got the shaft, and it's just really odd that like Obama didn't pardon him. You would think he would have, but instead,
this is in reference to Isaiah now because he was also unfairly imprisoned.
Right.
So he's like making a comparison.
Right. Exactly. So that's in his room. Jack Johnson, who was pardoned by Donald Trump, and then Isaiah himself is a character who's like kind of mirroring that on some level, right? So you had that stuff, and then also. The biggest tip-off of all is that Harrison Ford transforms into a giant red Hulk. Who else do we know as a U.S. president who is an angry orange man?
That might be a bit of a leap because it might be, I think it's comic accurate. I understand what you're saying. There's obviously clearly political messaging in the film. But also, I mean, I think from what I understand of the comics, it seems to be like that's part of the comic lore.
This was just the surface stuff, too. There were, like, other tip-offs where I was like, he goes to jail in the end.
He does.
So, like, when that one happened, too, I was like, what are you trying to say? You clearly want to talk about Donald Trump, and that's fine. What are you trying to say about the man?
Well, I think
they were just like, we can't say anything anymore.
Right.
So they just kind of hinted. And there was this whole, like, the movie had this energy of, like, America, it's okay. We've got an uncertain president, but we're going to get through this, guys. And, like, maybe it'll work out. Maybe he is going to turn over a new leaf. But really, he was a criminal. He was an angry criminal underneath everything.
It could be. I don't know. I think there was probably screenings that had much more overt political messaging.
I think so, and I think they scaled it way back to the point where it gets so diluted. You're like, these are just weird references. Why are they here?
Well,
what do you want to say? They
scaled it so far back that it was like, why did you keep any of them in there in the first place? Mm-hmm. And yeah, I caught some of the references, probably not as many as that, obviously, but like, I was sitting there, and I think I was just expecting to be more beaten up. I thought it was going to be a lot more preachy, and it was like, where did it all go? It just seemed so mild, like someone came in and whipped their child, was like, you can't have all that in here. You got to take some of it out. Most of it just got to get out.
Yeah.
And that's, like I said, that was probably my the biggest complaint of the film. It's just, It's so unbelievably milquetoast. It like
That's the perfect word to
in
describe this
all of
movie.
it, in everything, in all of its messages, even just on an artistic level, it's just like you're not committing to anything at all in this movie. The only thing that was like good through and through is Thunderbolt Ross's character because he actually has an arc that you can follow,
Yeah, and then it
and it's a decent
resolves.
one.
Yeah, if anything, it seemed more complimentary to Trump, minus the part that he goes into prison at the end, which was also like,
Strange, but it
because I was like,
also
he turned into a Hulk. I don't know that was like, do you deserve to go to prison for
well, that was the
being
funny thing because they
unjustly transformed into a Red Hulk? I don't know that that's fair to a person.
well, I assume that it's until they can figure out how to fix that condition.
Well, but
But
then why
but the
wouldn't you put him in a lab?
well, they put it in. That was the prison he created for the Avengers. That's the one that they
Oh, okay.
imprisoned all the
Oh, okay.
Avengers in Civil
Okay.
War.
Okay. Gotcha.
That's what I took from it because I was like, this is the one he created for all these superhumans in the middle of the ocean,
Yeah.
which is the only place you can really put a Hulk.
Uh-huh.
If he changes, like, well, he's gonna drown, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it did imply that he was like still president in the cell, which was indicative of some of the political things going on in the country, at least before the election. Um, so yeah, I mean, and regardless of where you land politically, like we get really tired of political messaging in shows, especially when it's so overt and it's not necessarily what the show's about. I guess Captain America inevitably has some
More
themes
justification to do it.
that
Yeah.
it's got to deal with. Yeah, especially if it's the current American climate. But at the same time, it's like I'm here for a superhero movie. Like I don't really care what your opinion is as a director or writer. I want to see Captain America on screen.
Well, yeah, and
Go
going
figure.
back to like the other topic with this movie is like how Anthony Mackie is now Captain America, and that just feels weird and strange. And it's like on the one hand, of all the superhero characters, like here's the thing. Here's my take. I think Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and that's that. That it just ends. He's the only Spider-Man. It's all the Spider-Mans we need.
So they passing the torch was probably a bad idea artistically.
No. I'm just saying personally. Personally, that's how I feel about it. It's like if you make up a character and they have superpowers and an origin story and everything, it's weird to me to just be like, all this stuff I built up that's associated with this character, I can now just shove onto somebody else. To me, that's odd. I'm like, just make a new character and have their story then. That makes more sense to me. But I will say this, like Captain America has the most justification for it because he is an ideal. He's not necessarily a person. And even his origin, like in the first Captain America movie, he's the one who, like, he's just the spokesperson. They don't actually use him. And so there's like different ideas about like, what is this idea? Like they're creating him to be an image, not an actual like fighter or protector of or whatever. So it's interesting how he like merges out of that. And then as a country lives on, I would assume other people would have to take up that mantle because it's not tied to the person. It was tied to the creation of this idea that now needs to be perpetuated when things are dire or whatever, as it was with World War. Was it 1 or 2? It was 2 for that one? Okay.
2, yeah.
So like his has justification, but I also just think that in general, Marvel doesn't really care. And they're just like, well, look, it's like Miles Morales now. He's like a new Spider-Man. Like, just get over it. And it's like, yeah, all right, I'll just get over it. And so that wasn't the problem. I can do that because I've just accepted that they like to do that. They like to take the aesthetics and put it onto somebody else. I think it's awkward. Like, it's now like, what was it, female Thor or whatever. I'm just like, it's like, just make another cool character and have her be that. But whatever, they shove it onto other characters all the time. The reason why this one doesn't work and why it's so frustrating is that it's like you need him to now be a character, and he just doesn't have any of the same drives that Captain America had. Like Captain America is like removed from time, and his origin story is like he's pulling the past ideas into the present as a reminder of like important traditions and values and virtues and this stuff. So like when he brings that onto his shoulders into the present age, it's like you can't kind of give it to anybody. It's so like the only one you could do theoretically is Bucky because he's also from that era. So I get like the logic of why people want that, but I just always thought Bucky was this like damaged person beyond repair. Like he's just this sad, like he's been like manipulated. He has a metal arm.
But wouldn't that make his arc more compelling? Because now he's taking on those ideals, so he's kind of like He's a tormented one for sure, but at least he could have something to strive for. Because at the moment, it doesn't seem like he's got anything going.
Well,
for
yeah,
him.
that could be cool if you wanted to do a dark. He could be a hard-edged.
Also,
Captain
Bucky's
America.
in this movie.
Yeah, he shows up. He shows up for a scene. He's just like, "Hey, man, just thought I'd show you some support."
I'm gonna go back to running for Congress. See you
All
later.
right, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go to the Oscar ceremony now. I'm nominated. had 2 great performances. They picked one. I was playing Thunderbolt Ross.
See you later. Have fun fighting the Hulk on your own. I'm not gonna help. All right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that part so irritating. I was like, you had 2 super soldiers that could have helped fight the Hulk. And you're just like, nah.
Yeah, nobody helps him.
Nobody.
Anthony Mackie doesn't have superpowers.
Right.
Or I mean,
Which
the
he
character
repeats,
doesn't.
like, 4 times.
Sam Wilson is his name.
Yeah.
And like he talks about it in this movie. He's like, I don't have the serum. I don't have superpowers.
I didn't want the serum.
I wasn't sure if I should take it or not. And he's really like considering this. And he's like, maybe I should have. And it was like, it just felt like way, like it's not enough. Like, like with the Bucky one, like you're saying, like I'm kind of thinking about it, going like, what would I do if I had Bucky? It's like actually I could make that work, because then it's like if he's a damaged man, would he really care to bring, like to have that same noble, optimistic spirit that Steve Rogers had? He probably wouldn't, or it would be contentious with him. And so he would be like I said, darker edged. He would like kill people with his metal arm and not feel bad about it.
Unfortunately, not the payoff we got. It was this one.
It was not to be.
It was not. Okay, so is there anything else we need to go moving over that?
Well, do you have anything else you want to share? Why did it bother you so much that Bucky shows up? Just because they teased that he could have been Captain America and then wasn't? Is that what bothered you about it?
Well, I mean, I've been bothered about that since they handed the shield over to Mackie. I was like, why him? I was like,
He was
what?
a sidekick. I didn't think it was that weird.
Yeah, but you have scenes where intentionally Bucky's holding the shield. He fights Iron Man with Captain America with the shield, and it's like,
Oh.
he just has these moments. He's also the soldier at a time. He's also a super soldier. He's got the metal arm. Like, I don't know. It seemed like he would have been in a more interesting character because he does
sound like it the more we talk about it.
He's got that like tormented pet. Like Anthony Mackie, he's not a terrible character. He just didn't have enough there to like be compelling as the character.
Sam Wilson?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the actor's fine, but
Yeah.
like, yeah, I felt like he felt out of place. Like he was just kind of like, it felt like he was like, I'm doing action movie stunt work for you guys. I hope you got a good story for me.
And they're like, nope, sorry. Neither one of us got a good thing going here. But yeah, so he keeps having like, this shield doesn't feel like it's mine, and I don't want to hold it, and I'm not, I'm different. It's like this all would work better with Bucky's character. Instead, it's I don't know. It's just like, why don't you just take it up and you've had all this time to do it, and they keep, I don't know. They're just not giving me a compelling reason to accept him having the shield. And it's, I don't know. It's just, and it's almost like it's self-aware because they keep saying that. Like, I feel out of place. I feel like I don't earn it and didn't deserve it. I'm like
the filmmakers themselves were like, I don't know if we should be doing this.
And they keep putting in the movie. It's like, yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. Prove to me why he deserves it because you gave it to him. So I don't know. The only other thing I'd say about this film is, man, that last fight scene, I couldn't take it seriously. I was like, you told me that he doesn't have the serum, and now you're expecting me to believe he can take on the Red Hulk. No.
Angry Donald Trump punches it's like Falcon in the face.
First time he smacks at that shield, I was like, hey, the shield might be able to take this, but Anthony Mackie is jello. You have obliterated his existence. Like this, you're not gonna. And then he like jumps through a building with him and stuff. I was like, hey, the wings and the vibranium and stuff is only gonna take me so far with this belief thing. The same thing as when that chick stood up. Is like, okay, come on. I can't do this.
Well, that one was worse because we actually were able to talk about the nuances of the shield, because I was like, well, wait a minute. The movie started. He used his wings.
Right.
I'm so mean. I'm sorry. I just feel like every time I say something about this movie, it's so ungracious. Whatever. He shows up with his wings and he goes, phew, and he like blocks like some missile attack or something, and it like absorbs the energy into the wings, and then he like casts the energy back out. And I was like, all right, this is like a power thing that he can do. So then he uses that to absorb the hit from Donald Trump.
Sure, Trump.
So Orange Donald Trump punches the wings, and it just absorbs it. And I thought, wait a minute, if he got punched, I understand like it would absorb the energy, but like the physics of that, he would still be like, psh,
right,
like
so
he would
shove him backwards.
Yeah, like he would be like, it would be like a punch. He's like, here's my defense, punch, psh, and then he gets pushed back, and that didn't happen. So it was like, wait a minute. So there was always something just like slightly off about it. I thought they did it okay enough job. Like it felt like through the fight scene they were aware that this isn't gonna fly. So they were like, well, he does it kind of like this, and he makes it.
But then he pulls a classic Anthony Mackie and talks to him. He's like, you also need to do better, President. Like, stop doing that.
You wanted a chance to show the world that you were a better person, Donald. Now do it.
Talks him down. Because at least when you had Thor Ragnarok and Thor goes up to Hulk, he's like, sun's getting real low. And then Hulk like beats the crap out of him for doing it. Because he's doing a callback to Scarlett Johansson's characters.
Oh,
sun's getting real low.
Wait, which one's that from?
Ragnarok. It's when they're in the fighting arena. And he's like, hey there, big guy. And then he beats the crap out of him for it. I thought the same thing was going to happen here. He's like, let's talk about this. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. I was like, oh, and then he switches back. I was like, come on.
But see, that did work for his story arc, is that he finally was able to like, because that was the good stuff where he was like, he was just so angry and he had so much reason to be angry. He's like, can't talk with his daughter anymore. And he's just like, and I'm president and nobody understands me. And then he's like transformed into the Hulk. He couldn't take it. And then he had to like calm down and get control. And then he like, submits himself to prison where he should be.
That was the other part that I liked. I'll say that is that he took responsibility and was like, hey, I changed. This is my fault. I was hiding all this stuff that's led to this situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I will submit myself to prison. Despite the overtures that obviously it contains. And then Liv Tyler shows up.
And she goes to see him, which was a nice
It gives him some redemption. It was beautiful. I was like, okay, I can get behind this moment. This is good.
Yeah, well, and like I actually like the twist the villain plays on him where he's like, because Sam Wilson confronts the president and he's like, hey, like you've got this.
You need to do better, President.
It's like you got this evil man who's hanging out in a laboratory and he's sabotaging you and you don't know. Why didn't you throw him into prison like you should have? And you're like, yeah, President, what were you thinking? And then he goes, and he's like, I was dying. And I was like, whoa, you were dying? And then he goes, like, I was like, my heart, we couldn't figure out what was wrong. And, I was just struggling and I wasn't going to make it. And then he offered me some hope. And so I was like, okay, maybe I can help you out in return if there's something good that can come out of this. And I forget like all the details of what he said, but it was a good scene. I thought it was a well-reasoned justification.
It was.
He wasn't just some evil dictator. He was like, he was on dire straits. He was going to die. And then this man saved him and then needed a favor. And he was like, well, maybe I could pardon you or something. I don't know. Like, and so he's like, he hadn't like confirmed anything when he retorts it. It's like in his mind, he was like, I was desperate. Maybe I made a mistake trusting that person, but I had no other choice. And then I, was thinking, okay, like let me look at this from like a new light. The same way he should do for Isaiah's character, right? And so I thought like that stuff was good. Buried in the everything else.
Again, good stuff in this movie. Yeah, basically all had to do with Ross's character and his arc. Sorry, Anthony Mackie, you got shafted in your own movie, dude. I don't know.
Well, he was upstaged by Harrison Ford.
Everyone's upstaged by Harrison Ford, but I mean, even the script didn't do him any favors. Is my point.
That's fair. They were like, it's like they were writing the script and someone says, he's like, okay, and then Sam Wilson goes, I don't know about
no, Ross.
And well, no, someone says, hey, we got Harrison Ford to play Thunderbolt Ross. What? Thunderbolt Ross goes, I was dying. I didn't have another choice.
Poor Anthony. Sorry, dude.
Yeah, it just feels like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Because it feels like he could have gotten a movie for him. It's like, why can't we just get a cool Falcon movie? Like, I don't know.
Call it Captain Falcon.
Yeah. Falcon punch.
Stupid. Falcon and Falcon Jr. Oh, super friends. So, anything else you got to say about this movie? Any closing thoughts?
I feel like if I'll go into another rabbit trail. You gotta stop me. Are you done? Do you have anything else you want to say?
I don't have anything else. Do you have anything else?
No, I'm done.
You sure?
Yeah. Go Thunderbolt Ross.
Well, okay. Actually, one last thing. What would you rate this movie? I feel like it has 2 ratings. There's one that's just like completely objective, and then there's one that's like as a Marvel film.
Yeah.
How would you rate it?
That is really interesting. The objective is like a 1 star, maybe a 2, because the Thunderbolt Ross arc does work.
Okay.
And then the Marvel one is like, well, maybe you should do the Marvel one, because I feel like you're more in tune with like how it connects to all these other movies.
I mean, I just laid it all the stuff I know out, so you know it too now.
Your vote probably seems like, is this like a 1 star Marvel movie? Is it that bad?
No, I'd give it 2. I think I'd give it 2.
At least 2.
There's far worse Marvel movies for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, probably
like
a 2.
Iron Man 3. That one was really bad.
We'll go through Marvel at some point. That is a feat. Yeah, I mean, it's weird because it doesn't inspire any passion either way. It's not like I don't hate this thing, but I don't really like anything about it either, except the Ross arc. And that's really all I could say about it. This is like
even that is only timely for so long,
right? Because it's a lot of movie, and it's a small arc in a lot of movie, and so.
Well, I mean, Donald Trump will only be president for so long, so even that.
Oh, you're
be
saying like
locked
as a
in
cultural
time.
relevance thing.
Yeah, like because they're like, well, we got to talk about like politics and cultural relevancy, and they're like, wait a minute, we can't be choosing sides. We're gonna get a lot of backlash, so let's bring it up and say nothing. Great
right,
plan.
Then why bring it up?
Yeah, why bring it up?
Leave it alone. Yeah, so yeah, probably 2 within the Marvel universe. Outside, I'm never gonna watch it again. There's nothing here for anything. Yeah, it's not worth my time. There you go.
Not even for Shorty McShort stuff.
Good Lord. Yeah, I'm not gonna comment anything on that one. Anything else you want to say? Closing thoughts?
I kind of like Donald Trump in this movie.
Good Lord. You are trying to get me in trouble on this channel.
It's all over it.
True.
Okay, yeah, I'm done.
Well, like, subscribe, leave a comment, tell us how we're wrong. We'll see you next time.